Welcome to the Trail and Ultra Running Training Podcast. If this is your first time here, my name is Will France, and I'm a coach who's trying to help you improve your performance on the trails while also keeping it really fun. This week on the podcast, I have Ray Berlanga. Ray is a pillar of light in the ultra running community. He is constantly joking around and having a great time. He has been running for every day for 5 years straight, and he just is always positive and motivational, and him running out with his dog Tapatio just brings a smile to people's faces. He and I were going to get together to talk about all of the stuff that comes up when you train for an ultra that can throw your training off plan, because we all live in the real world and it is very difficult to actually follow a training plan to the letter. Ray, a week ago at the time of this recording, had the epitome of one of these things happen. He actually just finished a race, and then there was a fire at his condo. If you want to just hop straight to the story, jump like 12 minutes into the podcast, and you'll hear all about it. I want to put a quick plug at the beginning. I set up a GoFundMe for Ray to help him recover some of the lost wages he is going to experience in dealing with insurance and all this fire stuff. If you would be willing to, and if you were in a place to donate to help Ray out, we'd really appreciate it. If not, we totally understand. But if you are, that would be lovely. Even a little bit would help. So I will attach that GoFundMe in the show notes. And if you're able to do that, we'd really appreciate it. Now, this is not all Ray and I talk about. We also talk about his dog and his running streak and generally how to deal with some of these bigger issues that can throw training off plan. So if you are a person who lives a normal life and still loves to do this sport that requires a lot of time, I think you're going to get a lot out of this one. Let's get to it. Welcome to the Trail and Ultra Running Training Podcast. My name is Will France, and I'm here to help you improve your training so you can have more fun out on the trails. This week on the podcast, we have Ray Berlanga. He is an athlete I've been coaching for a while, and he has a much larger Instagram following than me, so you probably know who he is. So, Ray, tell me a little bit about yourself, who you are, and like how you got into running.
Well, my Instagram handle is Ray Runner. Some of you might know me by. But on the trail, I am anything but Ray. People will call me Roy, Tim, Bob, anything else. But then everybody knows my dog Tapatio, and they'll start yelling out, "Hey Bob, hey Tapatio!" And I have probably the only running Chihuahua. And so he is very impressive and he loves to run. One day it just turned into 1 mile and 2 miles. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't know what's wrong with this Chihuahua. He just loves to run. And so I look pretty ridiculous having a Chihuahua, but he will beat most big dogs. He is just a little powerhouse. And
What is the farthest
like,
that tiny creature has run on his tiny legs?
So he's almost 13. So when he was much younger, it was 22 miles as far as one stretch. I'm not sure how old if he was 3 or 4, something like that. So it's been quite a long time. So it's usually now it's more like time opposed to distance. So maybe like an hour and a half to 2 hours is probably like the longest that he can go for, as far as depending on the speed that we're going. So, but this morning he wanted to move. We did a couple like 8-minute and some change miles. So you tell me a 13-year-old Chihuahua that can do an 8-minute mile,
Yeah, man, that's kind of wild.
Yeah.
Like, I've definitely never seen a running Chihuahua, much less one who's covering almost the full distance of a marathon. That's unreal. Yeah.
Right. Totally. Yeah. He's incredible. So super attached. My wife and I said, we'll never, ever own a Chihuahua. And we own 2 of them. So his sister, that is not a runner. She is a couch potato most of the time. Her name's Cholula. So I have Tapatio and Cholula. So if you're hot sauce fans, you know those. Yeah. They're both good. So I have a fun little farm and house.
That's wild, man. I mean, have you ever gotten And I don't think I've ever asked you this. Have you ever gotten pushback on running a Chihuahua for 20 miles? Like, is that a thing that people comment on?
Well, I don't advertise it, and so because that was and
Sure.
that was just like one of those days that I was just kind of like filling things out. The weather was overcast because there's been days like when, it's Southern California, it could get super hot. So there's days when it's uh we're going out for like a mile and a half, just like what would be like my off days that you and me will
Hmm.
call, and like it's hot and that's enough, and he's like lagging and
Yeah,
and it's hot,
absolutely.
on there. So, but sometimes some people, it's usually not on Instagram, ironically, where you think that would be where I get most of the kickback. It's actually like people in person, telling me that, hey, how fast you're going. Recently, like even on one of the streets, there was a older couple that pulled up next to us and some like pedal assist electric bike, and they're looking at it and they said, you're going 8 miles an hour. And I was like, really thinking, I'm like, am I really going that fast? That's pretty awesome. And you're like, he's going that fast too. And I was like, and uh, I told Tapatio, I'm like, hey Tapatio, they said you're going too fast. And like, I don't know, it's like, it's always funny about how they pick up on our language,
Um,
whatever. And that was it. I have commands for Tapatio to go faster. I have commands for him to go left and right. He's like a little mini
mhm.
sled dog. And I didn't say any of the commands, and he just started taking off. Like he wanted to show those people, and their batteries died on that pedal assist, and they couldn't keep up with us, So it was like, so which was great. And Tapatio's definitely like he has moments where he sticks out his chest, and when people on the trail see him and yell out his name, he always goes faster. Like he has to show off. He loves the attention.
That's wild, man. I love that.
Yeah,
That's really cool.
yeah,
I,
yeah, yeah,
I love a story you told me about like him showing up to the run with Andy Glaze every year on Andy's birthday.
yeah,
I just
yeah, 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 yeah,
that's a
yeah.
trip.
We always
It's a
show
fun.
up for Andy's birthday, Tapatio and me. Yep, that Andy's like, oh, I wonder if Ray will be here with Tapatio. And sure enough, there we are with Tapatio for Andy's birthday. Yep,
I love that,
yep.
man. So, like, I'm looking at your Instagram here, and you have run 1860 on there. I know you're a couple days behind, so 1862. And for those don't want to do a ton of fast math, it's a little over 5 years running
Uh,
every day. Uh, how did that get rolling?
well, this is the great thing about being in a good community and a good group of friends, like friends knowing each other's like capabilities too, that sometimes that we don't even see within ourselves, and being able to like encourage each other. So my friend Audlu, we were doing Beyond Limits Ultras, a 3-day race, a 72-hour race. There we did I did 144 miles in 72 hours. She beat me by like, I think she did like 156. And she knew that there was like something underlying going on that day, and she's all, it is not, things are not going well, and I think this is where my run streak ends. I would love to encourage someone and kind of pass the torch for someone else to start their run streak.
Got
And
it.
then yeah, so then she's like, I think that person's you. And then when I just talk about like her, like sometimes the hardest thing is consistency and being consistent. She's like, it's so much easier being consistent. It's so much easier to like instantly to just start bumping up your miles when you're already running. If you're running every day, it's like, it's not a question if you're going to run, it's how much are you going to run. So that I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And so a few months later, in September 1st, whatever it was, 2018, I think, that's when the streak started. So, and yeah, it's over 5 years now, and I can't even believe it, because you start thinking about like time periods, you're like, whoa, 2 years, that's like, junior high, and then you're
Mm,
like 4 years, that's like farther, that's high school, and you're like 5 years, like, hopefully you're not in high school for 5 years, but
You would
like
hope
I've
not.
gone, yeah, you're like, oh my goodness, I'm starting like to cross like some big like time slot. And the thing that's interesting is like seeing people that start their streaks and like and them end, and then you like me still going. And yeah, like it's always it's interesting, and then it's like even within like the streaking community, there's there's ultra runners, and she almost like all streakers are ultra runners. I don't really know too many that like streakers that are not an ultra runner. It just
Same.
seems to kind of go hand in hand because we're definitely special people.
That's a word for it. That's fair.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. We have our little vices or things and stuff like that. Yeah. So yeah.
I get that, man.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean that's cool. I didn't realize that it was kind of like a passing of the torch. That's pretty awesome.
yeah, yeah.
It's cool.
And
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just thinking, and her husband was definitely like one of the ones that was encouraging me and setting an example as far as like getting into like better shape, and and it just happened to work out perfect timing. And that's when you came in the picture, like as far as coaching and stuff. And, it's like getting like not even working like on our diet, just like over, like just running and doing weights and all these other things I've been learning. And, I was telling you how Daisy said, that's my youngest, she was saying that like, hey, Dad, you don't have your manatees anymore. I'm like, manatees? That was like, for everyone else, that's like man boobs. That was her word. So it's like manatees. I was like, sweet. Like that was her way of encouraging me and crushing me at the same time,
Oh
because
man,
that's what kids do,
children
like,
are ridiculous, dude. That's
right?
they're
Yeah.
too honest
She,
is really the answer, or the
oh,
right amount of
totally.
honest, but like they could definitely kind of crush you a little bit. It's good.
Yeah, totally. They're so good at it. To like encourage you and crush you all at the same time. Like, great, I had man boobs, but I don't anymore.
Yeah, you
So
don't
that's
anymore,
good.
and that's what really matters,
Yeah.
man. That's good.
Yeah,
Cool.
totally.
So I want to like dive a little bit into it and just say like you and I were going to get together. This was before we're about to talk about. We were like we should get together and chat about all of the stuff that happens when you're training for an
Right.
ultra that like throws you off pace, right? And
Right.
like how you deal with it and what's puts with it, and like how you might need to redo some schedule stuff. And then
Yeah.
the epitome of this happened about last week. And I'm just going to
Yes.
kind of let you go with it. I will say on my end, I was at an ultra running conference and I was kind of checking in on you and I didn't really hear much. And then the next morning you called me, which I knew something was up. I was
Yeah.
like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm going to rush out of this room right now, and answered. And then this happened. So, how about you tell me
Yeah.
what happened last weekend?
So last weekend, I was going to do saddle to surf 100, and I had made it I was everything was going good. Everything was like I'd correct as far as like stomach issues and stuff, and now I feel like I've really gotten a handle on it, as far as being able to like correct things on the fly as things start to go south, as whether it was like the salt test on the fly and
Mm-hmm.
things, and just gut health. So that's really nice and like awesome, like be able to have that and know what to do. And but when I got to probably getting closer to Huntington Beach, so the race goes from Norco to Huntington Beach, and back, here in Southern California. And when I was getting close to that time cutoff as I was rolling into Huntington Beach, I made it in there, and I was just trying to. I'm not the type of person that just throw in the towel. Like I really want to clock the time out, like before I, call the race done. So once I made it there, and I was just slowing down so much, my stomach was on, and then I threw up. And I just felt like once I threw up, I felt like all my energy was just zapped. Like as far as like I just could not get. And the weird thing was like my brain, like my eyes were super awake, like everything about me was just like I just had no more fuel left in the tank. And at that point, it was, since it was getting close to midnight, I had had my caffeine, and I'm like, Now if like I take like a Red Bull or something like that, I'm like, I'm just gonna put my stomach on overload. But since I had already had one, maybe like 11 o'clock, like
Yeah.
no, probably 10 o'clock ish, and I'm like, it was too close on time period for me to throw some more caffeine in me
Yeah.
to get going. So I'm like, okay, well, let's try to go to the next time station. And I missed a turn. And so the race director, super cool. And they're like, Ray, we'll time you on this section and then we'll just add it to your time. I'm like, okay. So I made the call. They're timing me, and I did that like section in 19 minutes. And so the next check-in station, I had to get there before midnight, and I made it there by 11:46. But then once you add on the 19 minutes, it put me over. And then Dee said, Ray, it's okay. Like we know you. You can battle back. It's not one of those big races like this. So this, they're nice and
Yeah.
they're like, Ray, like go, you'll make it up. And I'm like, I'm not gonna make it up. Like
Yeah.
if I'm already over, like it's not gonna happen. So my buddy, we were at his car, which was perfect. We didn't have to go and like Uber or get a ride to, so we just got in the car. He got me in and out, which is always good. For those of you who
Hmm.
don't know, that's the local burger, and it always puts a smile on your face. And so driving home, and I was bummed. In the morning, I
Yeah.
woke up and I was bummed, and then I was like, well, I might as well keep my run streak going. So I got up, put the leash on Tapatio. We went out for a run and came back home, sat in my chair, and I was just sulking, just being miserable, and was so bummed that I didn't hit 100 miles. And I'm like, I should have called my coach. I should have done a lot of things maybe differently as you like reflect, but I was just bummed. I'm like, I just felt like, so prideful, felt like I had it in the bag. Like this should have been easy. Like, why did it go so wrong? And I was probably sitting in my chair only for like a few minutes, and that's when I got a knock at my front door. Opened up, I mean, it was like a cop knocking really hard, and I opened up the door. It was a neighbor. He's like, "Your garage is on fire," and so open up like the door from my house going into the garage, and I could see the smoke opening up the garage door. I could see, the smoke wasn't coming from my garage specifically yet at that point in time. It was actually coming from a neighbor's garage, and then it ended up spreading, into my garage. And then now we're just like in evac mode. But then I was just, getting my wife, the kids out of the house, getting all the animals. We got frogs, we got, turtles, and getting all that uh, them out, and then getting the neighbor. I have an elderly neighbor, so running into her house. She has a cat, and then of course the cat's not being cooperative, but eventually catch the cat, and then I run out of that house, and then another neighbor's like, Ray, I can't catch my cat. So they couldn't even find it. So now we're trying to, now I'm catching cat number two. And, cats, like, I love all animals, but man, you guys do not cooperate when I'm trying to save your life. So, right?
Yeah, man.
It's
They
like,
do not seem to understand the situation
yeah,
at all.
like, I'm like, I know you're scared. I'm scared too. You're not helping the situation. It's like, gonna.
Yeah.
So we're able to get all the animals and everybody out, So that was, and then it was just at that point, just standing there watching the apartments burn. At that point, the fire department has showed up, and you're just like in shock, just like digesting everything that's going on. And the most of the unit had water damage just from the fire hose and water like flooding, because obviously they're shooting out gallons of water a second. So it's going from, and having shared walls, so they're putting out the water directly on the other, the fire directly on the other side. So then the water's coming through and all that. So yeah, just tons of water damage. It seems like everything in the garage is just a complete complete loss. I've been going over to my house almost once a day to deal with contractors and all that, and insurance people, and the house just reeks. It smells
Yeah.
so bad because definitely mold growth is already going on, and all that. So it's been really, really just just overwhelming. Like you never think that it's gonna, it's gonna happen to you, and it does, and yeah. So that's kind of that, like in a nutshell. So just trying to, figure out what's the next step. And
Yeah.
I've already had to miss so many days of work, so that, and being self-employed, like that really hurts, and knowing I'm going to be missing more days in the future too, like having to reschedule clients, customers. I'm a handyman, so like just trying to figure out all the logistics like that, and keep my customers happy too. And
Yeah.
yeah, so that's rough. It's like I don't, want to lose anybody in the as a customer in the course of this event, but everybody's been super um, sympathetic and understanding, and I haven't had any problems with that. Yeah, the things was like all the blessings is like I can't believe how many people have reached out to me. Like my phone is just always going off. Like, and then like people just want to, can I help you? Can I do anything? From neighbors to like friends on Instagram and Facebook, like everybody in just the community just really sincerely wants to help. So that's been awesome. Yeah.
That's good, man. I
Yeah.
mean, we all need it a little bit sometimes, honestly. It's, like I'm
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
half self-employed, and if I couldn't do my work, that would ruin me a little bit. So yeah, I feel you.
Yeah.
Um, what are they telling you as far as like any timelines or projections or insurance or any of this stuff? Like,
Yeah.
how much of a hassle is this going to be?
They haven't given me a date, a date.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, they haven't given me a date yet as far as like anything on when it's going to be, as far as or timeline or anything like that. Right now, it's like insurance is battling with each other and just passing the buck from one person to another, and then I'm stuck in the middle, and then I like dealing with like the HOA and other insurances. They're like, you have to talk to HOA insurance. No, you have to talk to the neighbor's insurance. No, you have to talk to your insurance. And so like it's just like this circle, and just trying to navigate that has been really, really rough. And me not being like any sort of expert in any of that, it's like I can see how people just give up and throw in the towel. But
yeah,
obviously I can't do that. Like I have a family and we want to get back in our house, and I need to get things repaired and and all that. So it's that part has been almost more stressful than the actual fire itself, dealing with the insurance. Yeah.
yeah, man. I feel like dealing with insurance is more stressful than almost anything else. I just like it. They make it so hard, like so much harder than I feel like it needs to be. You know?
Right. Yeah. Some of their conversation, oh, we don't cover that, and you're just like, really? Oh my goodness. And that's when your heart just like kind of uh sinks, as far as the what the coverage is or what did it cover. And so yeah, that's been hard. I earlier the week before the race was like I kept on hearing like some words. Like I'm sure like people will get words through their life, and just like kind of, and
Mm,
people will maybe get a word for the year and theme their life around it. And that word was like count it all joy. I'm like, yeah, prior to going into the race, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna count it all joy. Yeah.
yeah,
The prior to the race, I had some chest congestion, so I was dealing with
sure.
that. And during the race, too, which probably was like the main culprit
Yeah,
of everything, was that lingering chest congestion. But yeah, and then after the race, when I'm at home, I'm like sulking, and I'm like, Count it all joy. I thought about it again. I'm like, really, count it all joy. Like
Yeah.
you're like, so I was home from the race, so this was started at, Saturday morning, and the race he had to 1 o'clock on Sunday, so the following
Yeah.
day to finish. And when I was at home where at, I was at home when the fire had started. So I
Yeah.
would have been at the race because I'm a back of the packer. I would have been
Hmm.
sucking up that time. I wouldn't have been home. There's no way. And after like the dust settled and the fire was put out by the fire, we're just like this total peace of just like knowing that I was where I needed to be. Like I have never been happy that I DNF'd and not hit my goal other than that day. I was
Yeah.
like
I bet.
really so happy that I was home and where that feeling that I was exactly where I needed to be. And that was that moment of like counted all joy, and I was like, yes, yeah, I'm where I'm supposed to be as with my family. Because the good news is like my wife is pregnant. The bad news would have been if like she was home by herself, having to navigate all this with the kids and the animals and getting out of that house. Like there probably would have been more damage to the house, or someone, catastrophic could have happened, or who knows
Absolutely,
how
man.
things could have turned out. Yeah, so it was good being home.
I'm
So
glad, dude.
yeah,
And
and
like
yeah,
sometimes things just work out where they're supposed to. I guess like even if it's terrible, at
yeah,
least it wasn't as bad as it could have been. Is like the
oh
best you can do sometimes. And
yeah,
I'll tell you, you know this, but I'm in the process of setting up a GoFundMe for you and anybody who
mm,
wants to donate to Ray to like replace lost wages and whatnot. I'm sure that would be
yeah,
deeply
yeah,
appreciated. So I'll put links
yes,
everywhere. Um,
yeah.
yeah, man, we're gonna try to like rally for you as much as we can because
I
it's
I
terrible.
really appreciate that.
Yeah, we're
I'm
gonna do it.
yeah, I'm so thankful for that. Thank you for putting that together. Um, it's been just so overwhelming, like, and like good, like just seeing everybody reach out like that, not that you uh would want something like this to happen, but you really see like who your friends are, like with the immediate response and like phone calls, and they're like, I could be there. I could be there. I could be there, and family and friends like showing up and like not even waiting for the phone call. Like those that knew where I lived were there. And that is just so huge. And I was telling you like earlier before we started recording was like one of the things like I hope that's not damaged or from the fire was like a journal book of 1,000 things that I'm thankful for. And I really like encourage people, like everyone should do it. Like it's really good. Like
Yeah,
as things like that bless you, make your day, make you laugh, write it down. And then as things come to mind, like it's like, did I already write that down? You reread what you already wrote, so you can't repeat. So as the list grows and you start getting like a few hundred in there, and you start rereading and going through everything that you already wrote down, like uh you instantly just feel so good, and it's such a blessing. And sometimes some of the things is like sometimes it's jokes. My youngest daughter, she cracks me up all the times, the things that come out of her mouth, like it's fantastic. I don't know if I told you, she told me like we're on the way to school, and she said, Dad, do you know how to make holy water? And I was like so excited. Like I was like, oh cool, this is like I love her thoughts. I love to hear how she's thinking and stuff. Well, like grandma was raised Catholic, so she believes like a priest was like he prays over it and it's blessed. And then like Papa was raised Baptist, so it's like they just pray over it, and she's like, no, 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 no. You just boil the hell out of it. So, so I was like, that was good. I just
Uh,
walked right into that. She like set me up so good, so good.
I
I
feel
was
like your
like,
daughter
so
is like a 40-year-old
yeah.
dad with the dad jokes that you just send me from
Oh,
her
she
are
does.
just like,
Oh, she totally she does. It's so she'll like say comments to other people because she does dad jokes so well that other people won't get them. And so like
oh, it's
because the
delightful.
kids are age, yeah. But it's like everybody else in adults will laugh. So yeah, she's
Gold.
she's a crack up. Yeah,
Well, what's
yeah.
up, man? How old's your kid? How old are your kids?
So I have a 15-year-old, a 9-year-old, and then one on the way. Super spread out now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
And also like
yeah.
on the list of things that come up when you're training for ultras, like you and I started working together prior to your wife getting pregnant. So I feel like this has been quite the
Yeah,
year, man, of both like big ups and big downs and all sorts of
y-
stuff.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
totally. And totally. I mean, like, you just learn to like just keep on like pushing. And I think that's been like one of the biggest blessings from like the run streak is like when those days that just hurt so bad, like getting up and like just going out for that run and like who cares what it looks like, sometimes, feels like running, looks like walking, but it's like you just got to get out the door, and do it. My dad has cancer, and so dealing with that. My oldest brother has cancer. It's just like one, like it's like how many trials can one person have, and when
Yeah.
they, from that. The Instagram and Facebook's horrible for that because you look at other people because it's like they put their best on there,
Yeah.
so you feel like, oh my goodness, they got their life together. Mine's, a wreck, and
Yeah.
but
I feel
right,
like
you
we're all
get the
that way,
life.
man. I think our life is so much
Yeah,
shinier on social media than it is,
uh, it's
not.
super shiny on social media. So it's like sometimes it's like I've been trying to be more honest as much as I can. Like as far as just I want not that I want to brag about my trials, but I do want to paint more realism in it. That like I'm a
Yeah.
person and everybody has their trials and struggles and everything like that, and we don't know what it is, and we don't know how hard it is for that individual person. So if I'm able to encourage someone in any way, like I really hope that I can do that. That for someone just to start their journey of like bettering themselves and progressing and all that. So it's
Yeah. And I'd
yeah,
say, I don't
yeah,
know, I appreciate that from you. You can definitely tell there's like a realism to your stuff that I also try to present. I don't think everybody does that, and that's fine. Like it's your online presence, but it's definitely it can get a little inundating with the positive, and
yeah,
we all deal with so much
yeah,
stuff that it's just
sure,
exhausting.
yeah.
Yeah, man. Um, and I mean, you're having quite the year, so I guess one question I'd have, and how are you able to keep the running as a thing that like it seems to ground you, right? So like we've talked about this a little bit, but it's like with two family members with cancer, and I've had my own stuff with that, and it's been a whole series that you and I've talked about a little bit, and then like life with a child on the way and fire, like you're still doing. You're still running every day, streak's still good. Like, how has this not become a chore and how does it remain like a grounding factor for you?
Hey everyone, I've decided to stop doing ads for this podcast, at least for the time being. I just don't think they're a good use of anybody's time. So instead of that, I just have a simple ask. If you find this information valuable, please tell someone about it. Either hit the like or subscribe buttons on your preferred platform, share it with somebody, or you could even just head over to the Trail and Ultra Running Training Group on Facebook, and I'd appreciate that as well. I'm just trying to make more good, free information for people so we can all get better at running on the trails. And if we can spread the tribe, that would be great. Thank you, and let's get to the podcast.
it's those moments like you really, there's one of the trails that I do the majority of my running at that has like a point, like a peak, that's like kind of like safe for me to close my eyes for like almost like 2 seconds, like that moment of like kind of like meditation where I could just like close my eyes and just take that deep breath in and just enjoy it and just really using that time sometimes in running just to reflect. And I love taking pictures, so I'm not afraid to slam on the brakes to take a good picture. Tapatio hates it. Like he is just like just so annoyed. I can only imagine what goes through his head. Like we were moving so good, and then he had to stop and take one of these pictures. And then sometimes he'll turn away from me because that's, it's just like I'm like, you're just making this more difficult. If you just let me take a picture, like it would be really good. Like it's got a good background and the lighting, whatever. And he's just annoyed with me, but just
That's hilarious.
really,
Yeah, my dog
really,
takes pictures,
yes,
hates it.
yeah, yeah. Just really trying to enjoy it as much as possible, remembering to stop, pause, breathe. Even during the last race, I told a friend, I'm like, hey, this part on the course is going to be so epic. Make sure you enjoy it, where you're going to be at the highest point of the race. You can see a good portion of the whole course. Like just 1 second, close your eyes, like take it in, and then you could open your eyes and keep on moving. And so like he's like, oh, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that. So hopefully he did, but it's like it's that's kind of like life. Sometimes if we don't pause for a moment, it's really quick and easy to let it go by, So
Yeah, I do. And I feel like, I don't know, I watch your run streak because, I see them all, and at least for the
yeah,
past many months. And
yeah,
I've appreciated about yours is that running, I mean, some of your paces for these like miles a day are walking, which is honestly
yeah,
really
yeah,
good. One of my big gripes with run streaks
yeah,
is that people run through sickness and pain and injuries and all this stuff. And I think for the most part, though, you can get out and walk, and
yeah,
you're very willing to adjust your effort based on what you need for
yeah,
the day, which has
yeah,
been. I told you when you signed up, like I'm not a huge fan most of the time, and I
yeah,
if you're overtraining, I'm going to tell you, and you haven't. You like very much moderated and made it a rest day when you need to be, and all that stuff. And I
yeah,
just like you can tell that this brings you some kind of solace when it
yeah,
could very
yeah.
easily turn into something unhealthy. So I love that.
Yeah, thanks. I like there's the moments where in the run too, like where you have that low too, and where you just want to
Yeah.
yell. So so do it, Maybe you need to cry. Like there's
Yeah, man.
moments like where like I'm just like nearly in like just tears because it's not even like the run. It's just like during the run you just have just so much clarity and then you're able to process it, and that's when like it's easy to go into work mode when you're at home and just do what needs to be done, whether it's cleaning the house, making the meals, doing the dishes, go to work, take the kids to school. And it's just like so easy to like get caught up in that uh and not have that moment where you're able to reflect on this situation. So sometimes like I've told you, I'm like my break sometimes is running. Like that is like where you've told me you're like, do we need to stop on some of them? Like no. Like we can't, like because that's gonna be my one time that I'm gonna be able to get away from the house. So I'm like,
Yeah.
we need to keep on going. So I'm like, I don't know what the pace will look like, but we need to keep on going. Yeah.
Yeah. I get that. And yeah, there's a balance that is tough to hit there. And I think you do a really good job of it. So if we're looking at like, how did you start running? Like for most people, it's kind of a chore in general. I realize it's not this general community, but how did you fall in love with this and like have that become your safe space, for lack of a better term?
So running originally started with wrestling in high school. I had a coach that was really big on cross training, and he's like,
Okay.
we're gonna be the team that has the most endurance. He's like, we're just gonna outgas people, even if we go like, against people that are bigger or stronger or whatever. They're just not going to be able to keep up with this, and they'll run out of gas. And so his main thing besides wrestling was running. So we ran a ton. My buddies and I, we would joke that like the only people that might be running farther than us is cross country. Like no joke, because I always
Oh, I
felt like,
believe it, man. I wrestled for a couple of
yeah,
years and my dad was like a state
yeah,
champ. Like the amount of cross training you do in that sport is insane. Yeah.
right. So
Yeah.
we were just always running. So my brother ran his first marathon. I believe it was LA Marathon 2003. And when I
Wow.
saw him cross
Okay.
the finish line, I was like, that is so cool. I want some of that. I had kind of dabbled in and done 5Ks, 10Ks, but when I saw him cross the finish line on the marathon, I was like, I want it. Just the epic roar in the crowd. Like LA is pretty packed, and there is a very big lot of people. And I'm like, okay, let's do that. So I did my first full marathon the following year. And then as years went by, I'm like, I'm not really getting any faster. And one day it was like, my wife and I were dating, and I did the Orange County Marathon. I went out and ran it, and then afterwards, I'm like, "Hey, what are our friends doing today?" And so she's like, "Oh, they're playing soccer." I'm like, "Okay, let's go and hang out with them." And so I showed up to watch my friends. I ended up playing 2 games of soccer with them, and I thought to myself, I'm like, I should be like puking and more tired. I just got done running a marathon. So then my head started thinking, I'm like, if it was a further distance, I think I'd be able to go farther, because I just did whatever distance on the soccer field running around, doing all those short sprints after running a full marathon. So I was like, okay. So then I started looking into like 50s, and I did my first 50 locally, just kind of on my own. And then my brother, he did his first 50. It was kind of like opening his eye. And then he was the first to do 100. And then the following year, I was like, I want it too. So then I did 100. Because that makes always perfectly logical sense to go from a marathon to a 50 to 100. Like, why do we just double it like that? It is such a dumb progression.
Yeah.
like,
I mean,
like,
I hear you.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
Oh man.
like looking back, you're like, that's not really like the right way to approach it, but it worked, and a lot of people do it, and
I
but
mean,
like my
at some point,
first,
far is far,
yeah,
dude. I will say that. Like, I don't
yeah,
know. There's a
yeah,
big jump between those things. I do get it, but
yeah,
at some point, like,
yeah,
far is far. That's it. Like, if
yeah,
you're running
yeah,
overnight and you're dealing with the dark and the whatever, like at some point, what's it, 80 to 100? Like, it
yeah,
does it. I mean,
right,
I know there's a difference because people drop out after 80 miles, but it's
yeah,
at some point, far is just far. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's you have those moments where time does kind of pass by,
Mm,
during the ultras, and that's, I think, definitely like that, where you could just like you end up racking up miles like unintentionally, not really paying attention, and that's pretty nice. And like I think, yeah, definitely like 80s, somewhere in the 80s, like things kind of go blurry between 60 and 80. There's like that's a good chunk right there
yeah.
where you could kind of like zone out. And then, because then you're like, when you hit 90, you're like, I'm in the home stretch. So
Yeah.
you're awake, you're very cognitive of everything that's going on. But yeah, prior to that, no, not so much. Yeah, 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 yeah.
I mean,
No,
on that, like, what are some of the, I guess, all the stuff is hard, right? Like
yeah,
different
yeah,
levels and different kinds of hard, but it's all hard. So, like,
yeah.
what are some of the stuff you tell yourself to get through the difficult parts, like when you're kind of zoned out or weird or struggling between like 60 and 80, like what are some of the things that you lean on in order to get past that gap?
Yeah. The I think like as far as like things that I verbalized to myself was like wanting to be I want to be a good husband, to my wife. I want to be a good dad to my kids. Uh I want to be a good friend. I want to be a good brother. I want to be a good uncle. I want to show them that you can do hard things and that hard things are possible. Even when you're broken and don't feel like there's nothing left in the tank, that it's still possible to keep on pushing, and goals they're worth it, even if they're worth it just to you, because of the satisfaction that they'll give yourself, because then you just like it's okay to do things for yourself sometimes. It's like, especially like this, because it's like the mental reward. It's like you have such like the mental high from doing 100 just lasts for like months. Like, when you're just like, I just did something hard, I got it under my belt, and it's like you kind of can ride that wave for a while. So
I love that
yeah, I
perspective a
think,
lot. I also
yeah,
feel like some people have
yeah.
this like big dip after 100, right? Like they get that big dopamine spike from finishing, and then they have like a kind of a corresponding crash. Like, have you ever experienced that, or
Mm,
is that not a thing you really
I
deal with?
have on the lot.
Okay.
Yeah, I think only on the last one was probably the only one that I had like kind of like a crash, and that was my own fault, because I was training has been going so well that I probably I think I was so focused on where I was gonna finish in the race
Mm,
opposed to enjoying the moment. So I
got
was
it.
really stuck on me getting third place. And third place didn't happen. I got fourth, and then I was super bummed. And then I had and like prior to that moment, the race was amazing. Everything was going good. And then it was literally, as soon as the race was over, I was miserable. And then I was like, afterwards, like when and it literally took me weeks. I'm like, I literally was robbing myself of the joy of remembering, like, I was running with my friends. We were doing what we loved. We were sharing stories. It was a 2 mile loop. And when you do a 2 mile loop, it's amazing, like all the conversations you catch up with friends, like you get to know people better than you probably would than other people that maybe you've lived next door to for years.
Sure.
And you get to know the ultra runner that you just spent like 2 days with better than the neighbor that you've lived
Yeah.
next to for the past 10 years, because you just got their whole life story. And those moments are so good, because it's like you start running, eventually you run out of stuff to talk about as we're struggling together. And so you start getting down to like the nitty gritty, and people become so vulnerable, and they just start sharing everything with each other, because we're just trying to do whatever we can to stay awake and keep on pushing. And so like we just, whatever we could talk about, we'll talk about. And you really get to know people. And so those are like some of the richest and most joyful like conversations, are those miles when we're just plowing away, just suffering together, but like we're still having a good time. Uh,
Yeah, man. I feel like, I don't know, the the idea of a loop race feels exhausting to me. And yet when I hear you talk about it, yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be honest, it's like it's just not my wheelhouse. But I will also say that
yeah,
when I hear you talk about it,
yeah,
it almost makes me consider signing up for one, which is
yeah.
like
Well, you'd
lovely.
have to do it with me, yeah,
I
because I on the
probably,
loop
but
race. So on the loop race, because I'm not as concerned about, because we have so much more time. So I will have things that I do for fun. Like I'll carry a speaker with me, and I'll be blasting music, and we'll have dance parties, and there'll be points like during like we're doing a loop, and there's this one like on the last race, because of the previous rain season, they had to like modify the course. It was kind
sure.
of like an out and back on one section where you had to like loop around a cone. And so when we get to the cone, you kind of like dance around the cone. You just don't go around the cone. You got to like spin, you got to dance, you got to get in the groove, you know? And so we'd have moments like that. And yeah, and just like, just busting the tunes, and friends, putting in like requests. I'll have friends, because we don't really have good cell phone reception up there. So I'll have like friends give me songs that they want me to play during the race. And so like I'll have like multiple of those little portable speakers, so that way I can just swap them out real quick and like play it. I'm like, and we'll play songs that are just, a lot of dancing, a lot of fun, but we really try
Great,
to
man.
make the most of it. Yeah.
Do you run with these people on the regular, or do you just like just see them?
Uh, Most of them I see them just at races, and then some of them, like as far as like, there's probably only like a handful, like maybe like 3 to 5 of them that I see regularly. One is like virtually like a neighbor, like down
Mm,
the street, which is, she lives less than a mile, like half a mile, and those are like the best, because there's been times where it's so needed, and you like bump into your running friend that that like, what are you doing today? Okay, let's do that. Let's hang out. You just find them out on the trail. And like, I've literally like, whatever direction I was going, like just switch direction, join them, and we're going. And that's pretty awesome when you have a couple friends that you just bump into, like out there running, and yeah. So sometimes it's scheduled, but most of the time it's just accidental of us running together.
that's
So,
great. How do you find, I will say, like you work a fairly hectic job. Like if people don't know what's involved, handyman, it's like electricians, all the stuff you need, right? So I will note that I'll often like just cut strength training from you for a while if I know that you're just gonna be carrying around heavy stuff for a bit. And like that's
mhm,
kind of how things
yeah.
work occasionally if you work a very physical job. As someone who used to do like landscaping and concrete, that makes sense. And then if we look at like, but in general, like you work yourself, you're busy, you do all these things, you have a fairly large family. Like what things do you do that allows for this to like fit into your literally everyday schedule for 5 years?
Uh, it's a team. It's like having like, number one is my wife. Like, she knows like I will like that I'm in a better head place like once it gets in there. So she knows and realizes that like I need this, and and for me to be at my best, like it's good for me to go out there and do it. So her question is not if I'm gonna run, it's like how far. you know it's like, and then
Yeah,
her ask, which is very always reasonable, like if it's going to be really far, for me to get up earlier so I can get it out of the way so it doesn't affect into
sure.
family time and stuff like that. So that's number one, is the home support group. And then number number two is like a dog that loves to run, is very good, because he'll remind you
Yeah.
that like to keep on going. Uh that I I feel like just now it's more not like robotic, but like, because I feel like when you there are days that are robotic, like where you just go out and you do it. And I'm thankful that my body's in that rhythm, but there are also
Mm,
days when it's like, where like you really have to like motivate yourself to get out of bed, to go out and do the run, and to uh just think, spend time on the trail. And but scheduling, like sometimes like I am dyslexic, so scheduling is like old school for me. Like I still use like a written calendar to write on, because I'm more visual. And so it's nice for me to write things down, because that's when I write it down, like that's one way of me memorizing it and it staying in my head better. And then me being able to visualize, see everything out there out there. So that's and then I can better game plan for that. I think that's one of the things that I like about the Training Peaks program app, is being able, when I can see things ahead, and so like I'm able to like kind of schedule things, and it's like the rest of it doesn't really matter. It's just like the big runs, like you're thinking about, okay, like on Saturday I'm doing this, like I can sleep in this is what the kids schedules are and stuff like that. So you just learn how to be better at scheduling. And I figure like it's something that we all need. So maybe it's what tools work best for you. Some people are really good on the phone and doing everything and looking at it, and having it on their phone. I do have some stuff on my phone, but I also need like the written calendar, just because that's, with being dyslexic, I just need that extra way of reminding myself and visualizing that, and so also, so then it's easy for me to transpose things or do things backwards and flip all the numbers and stuff like that. So it'll be fun. I mean, there's moments like now I'm just used to me being dyslexic, and now I laugh at like half the things. Like I thought, like going to In and Out, like when the sign said pay here, but in my mind I read pray here, and I'm like, that's really interesting and really efficient that you pray for your food before you eat it here at the drive-thru. So is someone going to pray with me when I get to the drive-thru window? And then when I reread it, I was like, oh, pay here. That makes more sense. Okay.
Makes a lot more sense. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
I feel like you're
yeah.
That just makes you think your daughter came by her dad jokes so honestly. Like I just don't even know.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. So there's moments where I'll just laugh. I enjoy it. Like before, I used to be like so much more like embarrassed about it. And like in elementary school, it's horrible about being dyslexic. And now it's like you just learn, like there's like some stuff that's really funny that I catch myself doing, and I'm like, why should I not laugh? That's really funny. Like, or like the way reading a street sign incorrectly, that the street is Orangethorpe, and in your mind you read Oringathorpe, and you're like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
does make sense. I can see
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, Oringathorpe instead of Orangethorpe, totally makes sense. Yeah. So when you tell people
like
that
delivers, I hear it for sure.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Especially in the area of the country you are, man. Like that's basically that's what it should be in Spanish. So, I mean, why not?
Right. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man. You're Jim. I appreciate you a lot. We'll do what we can from a hopeful fundraising perspective. I don't know, put it out there and hope that the universe smiles on you. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we close, or anything, man? I have time. I'm not in a rush, but I know that I told you 4 and or 3 and we're past that. So
yeah. I don't know, like just for people to just keep on plowing and doing what they, keep on doing what you're doing, start counting your blessings, because we all have them. There's so many more, the things that we take for granted, and start that journal, 1,000 things that you're thankful for, and write down everything, because it will make you smile. It'll bring so much joy when you're like reflecting and going back through it. So
how long have you been doing that? That's a lot. Like how long have you been holding that journal?
It's been a couple years, because it's easy to go for like a whole week and not write anything down. And there's been times probably like when like I probably left it in the worst spot, and so then I didn't even touch it for like a month, and then you see it and then you grab it and you're like, oh, I gotta write this down, and you just want to you just don't want to lose those moments. And there's so many times, there's never a moment that like you regret, sitting down and journaling it in. And there's still like something, like I think with as much as things are cool digitally, but there's still something about writing something down physically and it's sticking in our brain better, and just being able to hold on to those moments, all the funny jokes and all the things in life, the moments of I remember like putting a dent in my dad's truck. My car wasn't working, and I borrowed his truck, and you're just like, oh man, like I have a broken car, and now my dad's truck's dented. And then call a friend that does paint and body, and he's just like, hey man, I just was on my heart to give you this cash. My buddy told me, hey, the money, like, it's pretty easy, Ray. It should be like $325 to fix it, this area on this truck. And I'm like, okay. And then my another friend, it's like, hey, this was on my heart to give you this cash. And then him giving me $325, and it was like the exact amount, and like you just drop, like you're just, those are like just those jaw-dropping moments when you're just like, that's literally the exact amount, of what I needed. And so those are like, oh, those are gold. Those are
Yeah,
gold. Like, you want to make sure you don't forget those moments. You got to write those down.
I get
So,
that.
yeah,
Yeah, I feel like I probably need to start something along those lines because it's
yeah,
I get very caught in the bad stuff, and I think that's why I struggle with depression and whatnot. And I think something along those lines would be very helpful.
yeah. Oh, my brain's like flowing now. Like right now, I'm just reflecting like of all the things that are in that book of,
Yeah,
yeah, there's just so much to be thankful for. Yeah.
that's lovely, man. I think that's a note to close on. So I really appreciate this, and
Yeah.
yeah, I know you're like Ray Runner with underscores in between and everything on Instagram. Were
Yes.
you anywhere else
Yeah.
on the social that matters?
No,
Oh,
nothing yet. I want to do more. Like, I'd like to do the TikTok, but that seems like more work. And I'm like, yeah,
it's
like I'm pretty busy. So I'm like, I don't know if I
yeah,
have time
man.
for TikTok. Yeah. And like
I
the
feel you.
other, yeah, it's like I'd like to, because I like being goofy, and I like, the songs and stuff like that. I'm like, that would be fun, but I also have like no pretty close about maxing out my time like on a daily basis.
I would say that's
Yeah.
probably true. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
would also say that
yeah.
you would be very good at the TikTok compared to
Oh.
me, who is not very good at the TikTok. But yes, it is a time
Maybe
sink.
eventually. I'm not writing it off. I'm just saying not at this moment. Like, I will probably do it because yeah, it's I like having fun. So
My biggest caveat on it is like it's I just go there, post content, then strip it and put it on Instagram. And like if you
right.
get caught in that algorithm, man, it can eat half your day. You're just like, how did I lose an hour? How did this happen?
Oh,
I don't understand
oh,
at all.
totally,
Yeah.
totally,
So
totally. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I don't think you're missing a lot. I think you'd be good at it as far as you can be good at social media because you're the right type of personality. But yeah, man,
Well,
it'd be a mess.
yeah.
Well, dude, thank you so much. Hang out for a sec. Everybody
Yes.
listening, I will post that link to Ray's GoFundMe. God, my mouth will not work. I'll post that link to Ray's GoFundMe in the show notes and everywhere that I can. Please go check it out. If you have a little extra, like, don't go into deficit if you are not. Don't feel like you're obligated, but we'd all really appreciate it. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Trail and Ultra Running Training Podcast. Honestly, I'm still surprised and honored that anybody wants to hear what I have to say, so thank you. To be clear, not a doctor, nor a registered dietitian, or any other kind of medical professional. I'm a personal trainer, a nutrition coach, and a running coach, and I have a passion for training trail runners. You should always speak with a qualified medical professional before making any changes to your training or nutrition program. If you enjoyed the podcast or found it helpful, please take a second to leave a rating or review. I'd really appreciate it. Or you could just share it with someone for whom you think it might be helpful. I make these kinds of things in order to provide more quality, free resources to people, so the more people who hear it, the better. If you want more of this information, please head to the Trail and Ultra Running Training group on Facebook, where we discuss all aspects of training so you can have more fun doing the sport that you love. Thank you again for listening.